Welcome to Dungeon Master. This is a rerun for Dungeon 93. And don't forget, Schindler's List won Best Picture in 1993. And we liked that because the morbid intensity of it all really gets you defending the weak. And that's what... Oh, this isn't Dungeon Master. This is one of those Dark Lord movies or orgy movies that doesn't have orgies in it all. False advertising. Now, we're on rerun mode, so we've got to be on the interface for Dungeon Master. This is the cleric. I'm going to find the rerun list. Got all these Criterion movies. I didn't direct all of those. Come on now. Hardly any of them. Maybe one or two. They're other people's movies we've turned into Criterion. Where's Dungeon Master? I see Adventures of Dungeons and Dragons. Alas, we have returned to the reruns of the reruns of the reruns. And I don't know if we're just going to rerun one episode, but we don't have much time because the bell for church rings soon. And I just got my son ready for Dark Lord Christmas. Oh, these logos play before Dungeon Master. It's so strange. It's so strange. I bet it's fake. No, it looks like the real... You mean Dungeon Master? Now that it's a real game, I must explain to you all, people, that not until now has the secret been known. That it is interactive in one very specific way. That you have to see them all to finish the game. But like an art film, you don't, or a class you're watching remotely, you don't have to watch them in order. Now, is the suggested order the best order to go through? No. And Hitchhiker's Guide to Dungeon Master doesn't exactly give the secrets away. Dungeon Master doesn't give the secrets away that you can watch it out of sequence, but I'm feeling kind of frisky and I'm seeing these logos and I'm saying, what's so interactive about this video game? Well, you can complete half of a dungeon, go to another dungeon and complete the whole thing and come back. You can switch order. You can watch 5 minutes of one. As long as you see all of the... there's roughly 45 hours now. No, 42 hours when it's all complete. And I'm not going to tell you what number we're stopping on, but I must say, for the point of exhaustion, we're not going to press you to mandatory conclusion of this game just because you're watching it now on this episode. And that makes it strange because here I am telling you to watch them out of order. And it's nice and all that we have these logos. And I think I want to film these logos just in case they really do lead to things I'm figuring out about Dungeon Master. Was that my deal for Dungeon Master already went through, and this is proof that the logos are there, and we've got the EV clip. This is a 3-minute logo, so it's a great logo. I think it's cool that it's before Dungeon Master because it's like a screensaver almost. I'm getting so peaceful watching this vortex of these kind of alien people that work for George Lucas, and George Lucas only employs aliens. That I said, well, I believe in aliens. Does that make me good enough? And he said, if you don't understand what I mean, who got to you? He said to me. And I said to him, no one got to me. I just couldn't be good enough for you. And he's like, come with me. If you come with me now, we'll share all of our secrets and we'll be friends forever. But if you don't come with me right now, we'll be sworn enemies from the planet Zarkon. Which proves that you're an alien, he said. And it wasn't George Lucas, it was the guy that was fixing his toilet. It was the only guy he lets in his house. because he took a bomber right around Super Bowl Sunday, you know. And I don't mean to throw these inevitably embarrassing consequences out that all humans have to take a dump once a day, but I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but most people I know take a dump once a day. I know I do. So what's the big deal of talking about it? Well, no one talks about it, but everybody does it, so get off my back, Jack. This isn't exactly... Yeah, it's 13 and up. Yeah, Dungeon Master's pretty much 13 and up, because all we really freaks people out about is how we all worship some evil entity known as the devil or whatever. The devil's an alien that lives in Zarquan 3. I know him personally. In fact, he hadn't paid his newspaper bill for so long. Oh, look, it's AV Club. I was getting into... I met the Dark Lorders recently, saith Dungeon Master. And they have a keen interest in my game, but I intend no training to them in the arts of evil, because I'm Dungeon Master. I'm just here to get through a dungeon. I'm not claiming good or evil even exists. But wait, it's a blank screen. We've seen all the logos. Wait, it's a screen of the screen. Wait, I'm on the screen, but there's a screen here. Is this a remake of last week's show? I need to tend to my Dungeon Master list. But considering this is a rerun, I'm playing it out while the logos still stain its temporality with disbelief, which means everybody knows they're real. Because you have to suspend your disbelief and spend your report card savings on some kind of studio head boss thing that you gotta meet to get the picklock key. And once you get the master picklock key, which is known for opening chastity belts, I will tell you, just to give you incentive to join the Thieves Guild. But seriously, if you want to control Dungeon Master, you have to go to the Thieves Guild for 80 years, get the Thief lockpick at age 75, open every treasure chest there is in the world that can't be opened, which have all been shipped into Newark, and Columbia has a few of them. But if you take the key and open the lock to the safety computer, there you will see all the old Dungeon Masters stored up, even the one where we pretend to burn down the house and then get accused of burning down the house. It's a classic episode. And really it was funny because it was all because we were smoking cigarettes indoors and we set up the fire alarm. It's great, the old Dungeon Masters. They took away more risks. But this Dungeon Master does kind of look like a legit rerun. I think we're going to have to go to a different dungeon. I know we had those amazing... And look, we've still got the logos popping up at the beginning, but how long does it go? Well, we already know the 88. And I vote that before we close, we at least try to get the new Dungeon Masters over. Which is easy, because they're all on the internet. They're just not... What's this? Dungeon Master. Tapes 91, so it is there. But at the end, after episode 1, so the list is out of order. Well, if the list is out of order, then we take this one up to the top of Dungeon Master. You can see how easily this is done with these YouTube self-help guides. The self-help book is use YouTube every day and you'll stimulate the endorphins. And endorphins are necessary for stimulation. And stimulation is good for the nerves, because if your nerves get shot doing something like going through your PhD, which I, Dark Lord, have failed to ever get, but this guy I know got his, and he said it would have been so much easier to just cut a finger off and hand it in, or cut his ear off, hand it in, and get the PhD that way. That was the loophole. But then I realized that they were tricking me into pulling on a Picasso just to be a copycat crimer, and it was some copycat artists that are really well done when they recreate it. And I'm not calling Gus Van Sant a copycatter when it comes to Psycho or anything. But Hitchcock thought of it first, but the whole point is to revel in the fact that you remade Psycho just as kind of an autistic idea. Like the undoable has been done. Now, I'm a little concerned that we have a 92 not on the list, but we're going to have to access that later. So we're up to 93, we know that. And 92 has made it on, and you're all just watching it now, and that you can't wait to see what happens on rerun mode, but I can't really take you through these dungeons the same way I took you through them before. But I can see what comes in the starter pack, which IGN has pledged to be all, and suddenly it's Dungeon Master 1. Only the audio track has turned into some kind of public radio. That I work for the public radio doesn't mean that we're not going to have to transfer this to Facebook. Because Facebook's a little more lenient about what we filmed visually, but so far what we filmed visually has in some level passed. So if this audio, you know what? I say we go to Audio Land. This isn't working out, and if they find some song by Schubert or something, I'm going to be mad that it's even on there, and the Dark Lord will never talk to me again if there's Handel in there. And I said, well, just handle it, man. Handle it. And they thought I was saying something oppressively Christian, and so I stopped. You never want to be the rude religionist in the crowd. I'm not really a rude religionist. I'm not really a rude dungeon master. Am I? Do you guys think I'm a rude dungeon master, Storyland? Well, we know it's been heard before, and we know it will be heard again. But the fact that the magic flute was wearing out its copyright numbers, we had used the magic flute 4 or 5 times. This is the perfect soundtrack for reruns. But don't tell anyone that we had this yesterday. It's my favorite album by the Antacids, who only released one album. But that's not why it's my favorite. It qualifies as a good album, even though nothing else was released the year it came out, which is like most of my films, everybody clears out of the way so I can put my big budgeters through. And that's what I'm doing with Dungeon Master. And part 1 and the rest are sketchy, aren't they? They're like these TV screens of TV screens that don't go anywhere, but they're so... I wonder what the soundtrack says. I mean, is he saying Dungeon Master sees the cage opening and films the lens and films the lamp, and it's a very different setup. And I'm sorry, without sound, these aren't the best visuals, but they're really beautiful visuals. But I think by Dungeon Master number 3? Hang on, let's see what we're on. Dungeon Master 3. Boy, does this bring back memories. I swear I've seen the film somewhere. And if this is Dungeon Master 3, it looks like we took even more liberals. I mean, what was it? We took it liberally. No? Literally? We took our chances, I should say. And we didn't rest on our laurels. And really the beginning of it's the excuse for this part of Dungeon Master 3. I didn't know any of the Dungeon Masters were this good. What, did Victor Fleming himself come and approve this? This is great. Victor Fleming didn't even know he directed this till it came out. He thought he was really at Disneyland or something. But Disneyland hadn't been invented yet. But he described it as being like a theme park on a soundstage, which gave everybody the ideas for a theme park because they hadn't had one yet, except Euro Disney, which dates back to the 2 million BC era because of the caveman Disney cartoon that was never released because Christians in America said it was to prove evolution, and they sued anyone that proved evolution, because anyone gets sued that says a Christian did something wrong. Which is the meaning of this film too. And what's it called? Wizard? Wizard. The Wiz. No, Wizard of Oz, there you go. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. And really, I know that's impressive. This is Dungeon Master, but even with new audio, this works. I like how Dungeon Master 1 was kind of this eclipse of the screen. I think the character builder finally opens the screen and still eclipses it. But there's something I must see about this. I know we all love watching this part, and the freaky geeky effects it has on bootlegging directions through movies to find the way through the map. But the dungeon is what the dungeon is. I can't change it, I just describe it. Now let's change dungeons. Now this is weird, because it's not a Dungeon Master, but it's a bonus episode, and that it's 26 means should we move it to the 26th spot? No, because Cave of the Fairies is what you get before Pokemon the Gathering. We all know Pokemon the Gathering's the one where I beat the world record on Pokemon. And we're all like, watch it now, watch it now. But now I've got this filter set up to ask me trivia questions on the ad. And away we go. Now, mind you, this is not in Dungeon Master, except the other 2 rerun episodes, which really... This isn't the first Dungeon Master rerun episode, it's just the first one to admit that's what it is, because Dungeon Master, myself, has gone barreling through all of the other Dungeon Masters and has found like at least 2 other early rerun episodes, and then late in the game here we are with no ideas except a rerun. Actually, the rerun's a really good idea, because now you get to show all the bonus features of these picked up cartoons and everything. And we can't show too much of this. This is spaced to Cave of the Fairies dungeon, but this is Dungeons and Dragons. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is where I get my AD&D from, not ADD like attention deficit disorder like you all thought I had. But honestly, I don't have ADD. Squirrel! But I do have Adventures of Dungeons and Dragons, and that's the core of where this game came from. Now let's see what happens towards the end of Pokemon to see if it's winning cards. And it's weird because in this place I'm playing some Beat It song, but that I picked it up right after Pokemon's kind of impressive. But let's look at these cards, and I can't really see. Let's let it play for a moment. This is towards the end of where I beat it. Now you can't really tell from this disheveled card game I'm playing that's supposed to be a little more kept in piles that are not everywhere. And this is weird because Dungeon Master is playing Pokemon and someone else is playing too, and he breaks the record with his own deck. That cost him about $5 million to get this Pokemon deck. But he just traded a rare Hot Wheels car, and that was the whole thing. But that the Pokemon deck is worth more than that. Now that it's conquered, is a secret between you and me, Pokemoners. That it doesn't look like the winning deck unless you hear what he says. So the audio is important to movies. Well, that's a new one to me. I thought ever since silent films you didn't even need sound. Hell, I've released 4 movies without sound and 2 movies that have sudden without sound movements in them. I love parts without sound. Why then do I do a rerun with different sound? Well, I must say the engine to the spaceship can only see what the mirror lamp can see, and we can't overboot it. And really in outer space no one can hear you scream, so this is starting to look more like a winning deck. But Pokemon headquarters is calling and says that I must leave this on level 7 so that the starter kit goes all the way to Pokemon the Gathering. So Magic the Gathering has similar rules to Pokemon, but let me just tell you, I've read all 300 rules to Pokemon, played it once, and this winning card deck you see here with a couple of cards that I have to just get rid of, but I have to do the Pokemon way. is my sleight of hand. And because this is a rerun, I could show the rest of this game going my way, but it seems kind of redundant if it's already filmed, but it's not, because now that I'm talking over it, recontextualizes it. Recontextualization is one of those things where you change a movie a little bit and add it to some other movie, and then you've made a new movie, or you splice the movies together into one new movie, and that happens a lot with films that have sequels, especially. They'll switch around with scenes from one movie to the next. Not that you're supposed to know that at home. But remember, you don't. One of the keys of winning this Pokemon level is you don't have to start from the beginning and end in the end. And to prove it, I'm going to go non-linear and go back a Dungeon Master. Because see, you can watch these in any order, and I'm sorry we didn't get very far, okay? Are we there yet? I know, but we're not trying to rush these. Although, film when it's recorded during the day is called a rush later, because it's a blood rush to even get to see what you filmed. And I'm not so sure I was the only one filming on these. There may have been other Dungeon Master cameras spliced in. Especially that camera on the wall that records everything that goes on in here, which I hope it does, because it's a security camera to see if anyone's going to steal Dungeon Master's weed. And originally, Dungeon Master was like, I don't mind if they steal my weed, but I am a heavier user now of weed. And if they are to take it away, my hip will hurt and I won't be hungry for lunch. Because my weed never got here, and the doctor recommended I do that for things like lunch and all that, you know. So, if I don't eat lunch today, because I'm still recording Dungeon Master, which won't be the case because we're running out of time eventually. Now I got a few more Dungeon Master hour-long setters up my sleeve, but the sideways credit of this movie is really interesting. It's really interesting that that's the sideways credit of this movie. Here's a bunch of special effects artists I didn't mention in my special effects class, which had barely any names except Rick Baker. But that's a LucasArts claim. And then Rick Baker, and then, of course, the King Kong guy, who I could only think of then, and now I can only think of Rick Baker, and Ray Harryhausen. And, of course, Ray Harryhausen helped train Rick Baker, and everyone in the film industry that came before helps train the next generation. And Spike Lee once even tried to train Dungeon Master to have a civil rights episode. But the only thing it could do was comment on anti-Semitism and how evil that is, considering I must give money to my Jewish friends immediately. And this shot of a UFO proves I've seen one. See, I told you, Weekly World News, I do believe in aliens. Would I see them if I didn't believe in them? Can you see anything you don't believe in? You cannot believe in an idea, but you can't really see an idea. You can see an ideal objective sometimes, but ideal is not seen, it's recognized. And I hate to tell you this, folks, but I got a really horrible announcement. I don't know if there's a God or not. I know this is going to be ostracized. That the devil controls the world, we all know that. But do you believe in God? They asked me once, and they were going to pillage me out of society in every way if I said no. And I thought about it, and I had to answer honestly. And I said, well, I'm an atheist now. And this was when I was 8 years old. But I must find the Dungeon Master that coincides with all of this. That voice is a little flat. This is giving me memories of a great era gone by. That the great Dungeon Master has a few tricks up his sleeve, but we need your support. All of the icons you saw at the beginning, the AV Club, the Lucas Games, the IGN, and the Wizards of the Coast, all need you to play their games and send them tons of money. Because it costs them more than they've made to create the damn thing. So get them out of brokenness and send them your money. You've been sending money to these commercials, send money to these companies, and that's the way Dungeon Master makes money for these companies, is from viewers like you. Oh wait, that's PBS. You can still run it like a PBS, because I kind of run this non-profit organization in my filmmaking style. Because I had a bad back injury, like some writer friends of mine. A back injury. And I'm not saying I can't accomplish tasks, but disabled Dungeon Master has become. Mainly everyone thinks it's just purely made up. And it's just that I've been off alcohol so long. Oh, thanks for the whiskey. My actual real master is the one that's off of alcohol, and I always say, if somebody does something wrong, call them out for it. But if they're drunk, if they admit to being drunk while doing them, don't call them out for it. Because no drunk needs to be called out for something he or she did. It's probably something they did when he or she was drunk. And I'm going to give all leeway to the drunkards because I can't drink anymore. Physically. I'll just puke right away. That means more for y'all, and y'all get leather-faced, do something horrible, don't remember it, but kind of do, speak shame of yourself, no longer, for the alcohol was coursing through your system when it happened, and you're not you when you drink a bottle of Jack and have no Snickers later when you're hungry. All right, so this is all the jingles we can do, and I don't know how this went so fast. Do you know how this went so fast? Does anybody remember this scene from Le Vampire? And did I meet it at the Thunder Master here? This is kind of a creative series, and this flesh gold blue tone is totally planned by Fouillard in the long run with these colorizations. He probably predicted that the digital screen would look at kind of a prism of the way he would always put reflectors in the shots. When you reflect past something, it's like the mirror can. The film is watching your movements. So pet it like a kitten, Dungeon Master. It looks like the screen within the screen is telling all. If we go over here, we can see the wheel of some kind of early car now. That this is not Le Vampire, but Dungeon Master. But it's a recontextualization. I think that justifies a mishmash of films. Now, I got one thing to say before I meet you in Dungeon Master 94, and we are not rerunning in 94. I know you want to see more reruns, even though you can just click on the list that I showed you. Wizards of the Coast, Complete Dungeon Master, and we're somewhere out there. Oh, sorry, we're at episode 34, exactly, and there's 93 episodes, so I know. We're leaving it on Thunder Master, though. No, we're not. Hang on. We're going up. I figure if we go, let's see, halfway through on this rerun, and don't throw in any more reruns. And we haven't clicked on a rerun. And I'm not sure which ones are reruns anymore, but this is a rerun of a rerun of a rerun. And the point is that anything can be artistic if you recontextualize it. That was an Andy Warhol technique. And I've gone and forgotten all those wise words of forgiveness I was going to give you for only being on Dungeon Master 50 and not wanting any spoilers for 94. But 94 is going to be back to the non-reruns, and there's no level ups in rerun mode. And you can honestly rerun these yourself by running through that list and getting them.
Evan,
Now, hang on. Yeah?
are you gonna eat?
Yeah, I'll be right out.
Okay.
Well, the dinner bell calls. And it looks like we're all late and stranded. But if I give you this Wizards and Warriors relay, I don't know how things are appearing and disappearing and how this guy is actually playing this game for the second time the same way. Oh yes, here's what we need to talk about, and I'm extending time on this by a couple of minutes. I usually have to do it in 5-minute increments, but hear me out. AI cannot be used for anything but video games, CGI, and animation. Which are those three things are kind of made the same way and stick together. Cinematography, I don't really believe AI in cinematography. I mean, that's like saying a robot popped out and filmed the whole thing how I wanted it. And I always film things how I want them, so I don't need AI for that. But I'm curious. Does anybody think that because it's prolific that it's AI? Well, I can prove that it isn't. Because it hasn't gone on a loop. But aren't these reruns part of a loop? Yes, but they're displayed in choppy order and sequenced backwards, and that's what I want you to all get out of this. Forget about everything I've said and just remember one rule of Dungeon Master that we learned from this level is you can play them backwards and forwards and specifically, hopefully out of order, but you have to keep track of the ones you've been through already if you're playing it out of order. And you have to keep track of what level you're on, which, if you play out of order, shall still be about the same media average of getting to where we're at now, which is level 75. And I know what you're thinking. Are there 24 more level ups in this game? And I'm saying that's for you to know. Or, if there aren't, and you want to get to level 99, do what the Hitchhiker's Guide to Dungeon Master's Guide says to do. Which I don't remember what they say to do, but I never even read that book. I thought it was the whole guide to the game, and really it was just a joke book about why we play games a certain way or something. Oh yes, but you may watch them all in order. You don't have to end the way I ended. You could go back and forth. But please, 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 if you're offended by Adventures of Dungeons and Dragons, don't play this game. And if you're offended by me laughing about it, or at least you know the Wizards of the Coast give me their blessing. And for all that cheap information I had stored up about why I think you should do this or why you shouldn't do that, I'm just Dungeon Master. You choose your own adventure. One thing that's good about Dungeon Master is you can complete it as you go. So if you die while playing it is the only way to die in Dungeon Master, and let's not get morbid. Nobody's going to die while playing it. The chances of that, even though I've divisive actioned it somehow just by putting it out there, is possible. But I'm going to say nobody died from watching Dungeon Master. Casting a Meteor spell after seeing Tella with Palom and Perot, well, that's later in the game, but that Tella's not really dead after he casts Meteor. Check that out. And Tella never actually dies, like no wizard dies on Final Fantasy, because Tella and Golbez pop out at the end and give everybody a Mega Elixir or something. So you know what I think is that Tella's not dead. And some people that die aren't really dead. They're just in a different dimension. And if that dimension's heaven, then there's nothing bad in it. But I have to tell you, I have seen the real heaven. And it's not as good as Dungeon Master. This is a much better way to spend your time than some fantasy about angels on a cloud playing a harp. Although that does kind of look like an angel on a cloud playing a harp. And I did have to extend this for 5 minutes. So we got 1 minute left. Any questions? Yes, Dungeon Master, this is a good episode, I like it, but what is after Rerun Dungeon? What's after Rerun Dungeon? Well, that they're all improv on the spot and researching the internet 5 seconds before the show is part of the fun, right? Or would it have been better if I'd have organized it so I know which levels I've beaten? Wait, I was there in all of them, but I didn't beat them all. So if you want to get to level 99, and you're only on, like, say, 85 when you finish, because level ups are hard to come by in the last 2 dungeons, which really they should be the easiest to come by if you can face the boss battle. But ever since we lost the boss battle to Marilyn Manson, it's a losing battle because he's too strong for anyone, even in Dungeon Master. Since we lost to Marilyn Manson, we're going to say we only make it to level 85. Replay some levels that have level ups. Now, most of the early levels kind of have level ups, but it's been an ongoing joke and truism that there are no level ups in Dungeon Master past this level. But I don't really believe that. There may be one or two more, but if you need to conquer to 99, which the Hitchhiker's Guide to Dungeon Master does say, then you have to repeat some levels. You can even repeat a level of find a level that's easy to get a level up. If you find a level that's easy to get a level up, unlike this one where you fight all these master battles and can't get a level up. Now, there are some, but the easiest ones to get a level up from should be repeated, and you can repeat them as many times as you want. Think of it as the turtle in Mario Brothers. Oh crap, I went over time again. Does that mean we have an extension? Oh, just a minute? Yeah, well, I got 50 seconds to tell you that went by so fast we must have had a blast.